Well, I do plan to do. I plan to do something today, meaningful, and rather than giving reviews on everything. So I'm going to try to keep this short. Um, this Evo right here is unpredictable, and he has no battery that you can extract from it, even though you can swap out the cards. That the only thing that you could really do to counteract this is to get another one of these guys, which is probably the reason why the batteries are not. You can't swap out the batteries. The camera I'm using to do this VR180 with is the guy that I'll be depending on probably until the day I die or until it dies, is the Lenovo Mirage Camera. Now, Lenovo stopped making these guys, and I don't know why. It completely boggles the mind, and maybe people are going for these guys. But the thing is, the Lenovos are dependable. So these guys, not very dependable. Lenovo's very dependable. Now, that's only if you get a good Lenovo. I got two cameras online from Amazon and from the same company. And something I noticed about the cameras is that they were from an older lot than the camera that I got. I looked at the date when they came out. They were like maybe a day before these things shipped out. So maybe the first production models came out were the worst ones because they didn't have Bluetooth. The Bluetooth didn't work. And so they were selling me a camera, a Lenovo, and I guess they're floating around the ones that don't, the Bluetooth doesn't work on them. But this guy does. The Bluetooth works on this camera. And the problem with it is that I scuffed up the lenses. So if I ever get another one of these Lenovo cameras, it will probably be, some time down the road whenever people are still pushing them around and someone's got a nice one. I don't know. I mean, the lightning may never strike twice. Lenovo, I don't know what's going on with them. They make great hardware. They're Linux compatible. They're doing all the right things. This camera's got the right stuff. Why is it not selling? Why is it not? Why not making like moolah off of this thing? And it's completely open. Google's got it open. What's the problem? It completely is a big question mark in my mind. And it's a big question mark in my mind why VR is not taking off. And I think it's probably something to do with everybody's trying to own it. They're not really investing a lot in trying to make it open. They're trying to own it. And when you try to own something, you risk the possibility that it will become a fossil. And you know what a fossil is? Archaeologists, this is what archaeologists do. They look at, when they dig up a dinosaur bone, they look at all of the sedimentary rock that the dinosaur bone was in. And then they look at fossils. They find fossils. Those are animals that lived in a certain period of time. They only and so they can carbon date them, or they can do whatever kind of dating of that fossil record, and then they can determine how old the dinosaur bone is. So they'll use fossils to date other fossils, but usually what a fossil is something that wasn't around for very long. This guy is probably going to be around a lot less longer than this Lenovo Mirage, even though the Mirage is probably going off the market. And it is probably going to still be in use for another 10, I'd say 10, 20, 30 years. People will still be using this camera, and this thing will be a puck on a trash heap somewhere. And the reason why is because this guy fails. And the company that made the software for this guy, it was not really invested in trying to make it work. Okay. I can tell you that because it's not very well integrated. It kind of feels like they were depending on somebody else to create their technology. And, I don't know how much of it they actually own. This is the problem with companies that outsource to other countries. This is the reason why we have so many people coming from foreign countries, from India, for instance, because in India, this is what they do. You give them, you pay them to create the technology you want, but they hold the source code and they give you the binary. They give you the executable. Then you find out that you need more, and then you come back to them, and they're wise, and they say, well, if you really want version 2.0, you're going to pay 3 times as much. And then you say, well, screw you, I'll go to the next guy. And then I said, well, maybe we'll negotiate. So they negotiate, and you get what you want. Then you come back around to get something new, more, and then they hold the source code. They hold the keys to the car, or they hold the keys to the and so you end up trying to finagle something out of them. And so these technologies, I would bet a lot of the technologies we have in the world that are like this were created by programmers in India, and they held the source code, and the company came up with the technology, and then, or maybe it was India or it was China. They hold the source code, they have the technology, but they're not able to go and create another one because it was held back from them. The source code. So that's kind of the way my gears are turning on this, is how does this get not to be quite as good a quality as this? Now, I'm still going to be using this guy, and I'm going to hope that these guys are smart enough to get this thing working and to open it up, because opening it up is the only way that this thing is ever going to have any staying power. The thing is, you have to ask there's 2 questions you have to ask as a developer or as somebody who's coming up with a new technology. Which is most important, me or this? If it's me, then that's going to be a puck. If it's this, then that's going to be around even when you're dead, okay? So this is most important, not you. If your creditors are more important than that, that will be a puck. If it's more important than your creditors, then this will be around forever, okay? And so you'll be on your deathbed and saying, just like Steve Jobs, he'll be looking at it and he'll be saying, hey, I finally brought the iPad around, and it's great technology and I feel good, but the thing is that he doesn't say that same thing about the Apple. He doesn't look back on the Apple, or he doesn't look back on the Macintosh, and that he feels really good about that last thing that he was working on. He was still working on stuff, but a lot of the people that create these technologies, they probably won't. They'll have their current technology, but their company won't be around any longer. I give Insta360 5, maybe 10 years. They won't be around in 10 years. They're gonna, and Lenovo will be around, because Lenovo has really good stuff. Do you see this? That's Lenovo. And do you see that over there? That's Lenovo. In the next room, I've got a Lenovo PC. I bought that HP, that was worthless. I bought this. If you look inside of this tower model, it's got a little motherboard and the rest of it is air. Okay. This guy has expansion. Dells are good. Dells are pretty good machines. Sometimes you get something that doesn't work so well. This thing, the saving grace of this thing is somebody figured out how to put Linux on it. And so it's got on it is Linux. It doesn't have Windows anymore. That Macintosh over there, I keep that because I don't know why. So, but that's the only Macintosh I ever bought. I bought iPads, I got iPhones, and I don't have an iPhone, I have an iPod, I have iPads, I have these Amazon Fires. They're okay, but they're not quite as interesting as the iPods. And then I'll tell you the reason why this is. The problem with Androids is, and this is a problem with Linux too, is that there are so many copiers, so many people that create the same stuff, but nobody does it really well, and it doesn't have staying power. That is probably the reason why people try to create proprietary stuff and try to own it, is because they're trying to create some kind of tool that people will own and then they'll use. But how about Blender 3D? It was designed in house, and it was designed to do something, to do real work. And then they tried to make money off of it, and they failed. And then they were able to put it into open source because the people who the angel investors took it back from them, and then they were able to finagle it off of them and say, well, can we put it in open source, give it some use in the world, and sure enough, Blender's taking off, and it'll be around for a long time. So you can't really know if something is going to be around forever. Um, Making it proprietary doesn't always make it work. Making it open doesn't always make it work. Um, People don't go to Linux for creative reasons. They go to it for long-term, for longevity. They go to Linux for longevity. They don't go to it for as a creative platform. They'll go to something that's proprietary, because then that somebody's going to put a lot of their flavor into it because they're trying to support themselves. In Linux, you're not really trying to support yourself. You're just trying to keep something of the past. But with these cameras right here, if you can get it into a format that you can use, then you are going to put it on Linux. But this thing probably won't be around in 10 years unless they can open source the hardware and somebody's willing to work on it. But as small as that is, I kind of doubt it. The Lenovo's, I would guess, would probably be more likely to be less pucks in the future, because they're